This week, BMW announced their updated R1250RT Tourer for 2021, and it contains a big step forward in terms of motorcycle technology. This is the first production bike to be available with adaptive cruise control, which is a feature that's been available on cars for years now. It's a huge advancement for motorway riding and safety, so in today's video we're going to look at their new system in some detail, as well as the 5 other best changes that have been made to the RT for the new model year. But before we get started, if you're new here and you want to keep up to date with all of the latest new bike releases for 2021, then please do remember to hit subscribe. There are announcements almost every day at the moment, and I'll be covering as many of them as I possibly can. So let's start with the active cruise control, which is an optional extra and different to the dynamic cruise control which comes as standard. DCC follows a set speed, but can also make use of the RT's integral ABS system in order to slow the bike down whilst riding downhill when engine braking forces aren't sufficient. Active cruise control, on the other hand, uses radar sensors which are integrated into the front fairing and have a detection range of up to 120 meters. The rider can use the switchgear to select a speed, as well as one of 3 distance settings, and then the ACC system will follow any vehicle in front at the specified distance using the accelerator and braking system to modulate speed. The rate of acceleration and deceleration can be adjusted by using one of either 2 modes, comfortable or dynamic. ACC also takes into account the lean angle of the bike, reducing speed whilst cornering in order to avoid ploughing on at 70 miles an hour, forcing you to lean it over to an uncomfortable level. It'll also reduce the aggressiveness of changes in speed when a lean is detected, in order to avoid unsettling the bike whilst cranked over, which could result in sliding out. It also supports overtaking by increasing the speed of the bike as soon as the indicators have been switched on, and it'll return to the rider's set speed once the lane ahead is clear. There are some drawbacks though. The system only works in moving traffic, so if there's a stationary car up ahead, such as some traffic lights or a proper jam, then you'll have to intervene manually. Taking over from the active cruise control system is super simple though, with even the slightest touch of the accelerator or brake giving control to the rider immediately. I think the benefits of this system are pretty obvious. Long stints in the saddle will be more comfortable because you're not having to constantly feather the throttle to follow the traffic in front. And of course, it could also improve safety by preventing you from running into the back of a vehicle if you did unfortunately have a momentary lapse in concentration. But as usual, I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments below. I know that some people don't like having all the latest tech on their bike, so what do you think? Is this system safer than manual cruising, or could it lure the rider into a false sense of security and lessen their concentration levels? Now, Ducati recently announced their own adaptive cruise control system called ARAS, or Advanced Rider Assistance Systems. They claim that their upcoming Multistrada V4 will be the first motorcycle to feature both front and rear facing radars. The front radar, like the BMW, enables adaptive cruise control, but the rear allows blind spot detection and rear impact warnings. I'm certainly looking forward to finding out more about that system when the Multistrada V4 launches on November the 4th. And KTM are also working on their own system. This video has been live on their YouTube channel for some time now, and it shows a similar system to that described by Ducati. An updated 1290 Super Adventure has been spotted in testing this year, so let's assume that they're not far off launching their system as well. It's interesting to me that BMW didn't include active cruise control on the updated 2021 R1250 GS. Granted, it's an adventure bike and somewhat intended for off-roading, but realistically the majority of the miles done on a GS will be on the road, with many riders covering substantial touring miles. I'm almost certain that we'll see active cruise control the next time their K1600 heavyweight Tourer is updated, but we might have to wait till 2022 for it to appear on the GS. But it's not the only update to the R1250RT for 2021. Most noticeable is the restyling with a new fairing, front mudguard and some of the bodywork. If you compare the new bike to the last generation, you can see that it's become more angular around the headlights. It won't be to everybody's taste, but the redesign has definitely modernised the look of the bike, and I think it looks a little sharper. BMW also claims some aerodynamic improvements to the new fairing, with a revised duct at the bottom of the windscreen in order to calm the airflow around the rider, reducing turbulence and therefore fatigue over long journeys. The top of the fairing is also lower, which increases the rider's field of view. In terms of riding modes and rider aids, the RT gets a lot of the same updates as the 2021 GS, with DTC or Dynamic Traction Control as standard, as well as Integral ABS Pro as standard. Both of these features are lean sensitive, which enhances safety whilst accelerating or braking mid-corner, and Integral ABS Pro also optimally distributes braking forces between the front and rear brakes, whether using the front brake lever or the rear brake pedal. Dynamic Braking Control also disables the throttle under heavy braking so that it isn't unintentionally applied in an emergency braking situation, and a Dynamic Brake Light alerts vehicles behind to abrupt braking by flashing the rear brake light under moderately heavy deceleration and flashing the hazards as well in extreme emergency stops. There are now 3 riding modes as standard on the R1250RT, with Road, Rain and a new Eco mode. Eco makes use of BMW's shift cam variable valve timing and valve lift system in order to get the most mileage possible out of a single tank of fuel. It delivers a gentle throttle curve and moderate levels of torque, whilst also prompting the rider to ride in an economical manner via an efficiency indicator at the top status line of the new TFT Color dash. If 3 riding modes aren't enough, there's now an option to add Riding Modes Pro as an extra. This upgrade adds a dynamic mode on top of Road, Rain and Eco, in which all of the rider aids can be configured to the rider's taste. The Rider Modes Pro package also includes Engine Drag Torque Control, or MSR as BMW call it, which basically acts like a slipper clutch, reducing rear wheel drag by electronically opening the throttle valves when slip is detected. I just mentioned the new TFT dash and it really does look impressive. It'll measure 10.5 inches in diameter, which must make it one of the biggest on the motorcycle market. I remember first riding the Triumph Tiger 900 at its launch last year in Morocco and being impressed at the size of that dash, and that's just 7 inches. The dash on the new RT has a massive widescreen look, and with that much space it makes total sense for a touring bike, where using the navigation and infotainment system is far more likely to be a regular occurrence. I recently borrowed the new F900R from BMW, and honestly the TFT dashes are probably the best in the business. They're really clear to read and relatively easy to navigate despite having a wealthy list of settings, so I can't see this screen being anything other than awesome. Something else that caught my eye in the press release is the row of favourites buttons inside the fairing that can be used as shortcuts. With so many settings available on bikes like this RT, it can sometimes be a fiddle to switch between them, especially when you typically have just a handful that you use regularly. These buttons can be used to control navigation, heated grips and seat, media playback, and switching the media source. They also have 2-stage keying, which means that a light press reveals the function of the key and what settings are possible, whilst a firmer press actually confirms a selection. Elsewhere, BMW's double fanfare horn now comes as standard, and there are a whole bunch of new additional accessories for the next model year. There's an adaptive headlight option which detects lean angle and swivels the headlight to illuminate the inside of a turn accordingly, increasing safety whilst cornering in the dark. It can also pivot vertically in order to compensate for heavy acceleration or braking, or a passenger and luggage. This ensures that the headlight beam always remains level. There's also a welcome and goodbye lighting option which looks cool, but from a practical perspective seems fairly useless, although the follow me home feature would definitely be useful if you tend to park in a dark spot or have an unlit garage. Another optional extra that caught my eye is the comfort telephony with extended smartphone connection. That's a very long name for what's essentially a stash for your phone, although it's actually pretty trick. It's splash-proof to protect your device in adverse weather conditions, and is also cooled by a built-in fan to make sure your phone doesn't overheat when it's warm. On top of that, there's a USB connection inside for charging, and for this sort of bike I think it's an awesome feature. I recently borrowed a Goldwing from Honda which had a smartphone holder in the top box, and the new Tiger 900 from Triumph also features a place to keep your phone safe and dry under the saddle. This approach makes much more sense to me than a bike like the Africa Twin, which has Apple CarPlay CarPlay, but nowhere to stow your phone, and so you end up just mounting it on the bars anyway, given that the USB socket is part of the dash. It makes the phone integration feel a bit useless, the cable looks untidy, and your phone feels a bit vulnerable, especially on an adventure or touring bike. So although it might not seem like a big deal, I really like this feature on the RT. For 2021, it'll be available in 4 color schemes, starting with a basic Alpine White. There's also a slightly more premium Elegance model in a finish called Manhattan Metallic, and a sport model in Racing Blue with blacked out wheels and components. But the range topper is the Option 719 Mineral White Metallic, which also has some extra detail on the panniers and the fairing side panels. But it's an extra 1,740 quid versus the standard Alpine White, so you've really got to want it. Personally, I think the Manhattan Metallic is the classiest of the bunch. So that's all of the updates for the R1250RT for next year. The fundamental specs such as the 136 horsepower Boxer twin engine with shift cam technology, the weight, dimensions and accessories like dynamic electronic suspension and Hill Start Pro will all remain the same, but I think there are plenty of substantial advancements overall. It's a touring bike that's absolutely dripping with tech and features, especially if you add all of the optional extras. But doing so can be costly. I added all the bells and whistles on the BMW configurator website, and the grand total came to a whopping £26,580. So what do you guys think? Would you ever pay that sort of money for a bike with all the latest technological assistance? Or would you rather have a cheaper bike without the gadgets? The R1250R, for example, has the same engine, but in a much more stripped back package, and that starts at 11.5 grand. Spend a little of what you saved on a screen and some panniers, and it'd still make a decent little touring machine. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe and I'll catch you next time.